So welcome and good evening. Thanks so much for coming. My name is Hillary and I'm the Public Programs Coordinator at the Transit Museum. For accessibility and low vision purposes, I'm a white woman with glasses and curly hair. Welcome to today's program. So this evening, we're going to be learning about accessibility in the MTA, past, present, and future plans to make the system more accessible overall. We also hope that you come and join us at the Transit Museum. It's a really wonderful space for all ages. We're located in downtown Brooklyn in a decommissioned subway station, which is open Thursday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We also have a gallery and shop in Grand Central Terminal. Now for today's program, if you'd like captions, you can select captions and click Show Captions at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see that option, click the three dots at the bottom of your screen and you should see an expanded menu. There will be time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to add questions or comments in the chat, and we will try to get to them as we get to that point in our discussion. Now, our presenters this evening are from MTA Accessibility team. So I'd like to introduce our speakers. First, we have Mira Phillipson. A Chicago native with roots in New York, Mira's passion for equitable city life and public transit has guided her career in accessibility at the MTA. She first moved to New York to pursue a degree in urban studies and sociology from Barnard College. She also studied European urban planning and transportation in Copenhagen, Denmark. Today, she serves as MTA Accessibility's Senior Innovation Strategist, researching, testing, and implementing innovative accessibility features and solutions, whether technological, informational, or infrastructural. We also have with us Charlie Cohen. Charlie Cohen is an Excelsior Service Fellow on the MTA Accessibility team. Born and raised in New York City, Charlie fell in love with the 2-3 train and the M66 bus, and in his kindergarten show and tell needed extra time to explain all of the bus routes in Manhattan. Born blind in his left eye, he is working to make New York more accessible to all and making sure anyone who uses public transportation can do so. So he's a graduate of the University of Michigan and New York University's Robert Wagner School of Public Service. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Hillary. And first and foremost, good evening, everybody. My name is Charlie Cohen. For accessibility purposes, I am a white man wearing rectangular glasses and a blue shirt with a blue tie. We first and foremost want to give a shout out to Hillary and Jennifer and everyone at the New York City Transit Museum for being incredible partners. And we are really excited for this presentation. I'm joined by my colleague, Mira Phillipson, who can quickly introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mira. For accessibility purposes, I have long red hair and I'm also wearing rectangular glasses, although the picture of me on your screen does not have me wearing glasses.
So we are going to get started, and we're going to go to our so we're going to have a quick little discussion about what our topics for today will be. Introducing the concept of what our team does and the mission of our team of accessibility for all, and explaining that concept a little further. We will then be discussing accessibility here at the MTA, and then looking at our buses and subways and looking at the rich history, the present actions that we're doing, and future work that will be coming ahead. And then looking at some of the new technological solutions as well that we are introducing and have introduced over the past few years and hopefully in the coming years. We'll have some time for some announcements from our team and from the Transit Museum, and then a quick Q&A session. So the concept of accessibility for all is, as we've said, or as I said earlier, is a driving point and a cornerstone here at the MTA, as accessibility is one of our core values listed. We are here to maximize accessibility for all of our customers, and it's more than just elevators, and it's, what does it mean? What are all of the solutions? What are creative solutions? Learning from you and learning from other teams and other individuals about what we can do to best maximize accessibility, as said. And we are excited about the idea that we have so many great teams and so many great people here within the MTA and so many countless individuals to thank for all of the work we did and all of the work we are going to do. And go into this idea that everyone deserves equal access to the same places, experiences, the content provided, the information given, and compliance is that floor. The Americans with Disabilities Act, as yesterday was the 33rd anniversary of its signing, is what we are working towards, but we're aiming higher, above and beyond what is required of the federal law. And doing that through investing in accessibility, from elevators and maps to new technologies and standardizing maintenance practices. It's investing for a better transit system overall. And so we hope today that the biggest takeaways that you can have are learning about some of our new features, learning about some features you may not have known about, and to give you just a little sense of what we're doing so that you may think about the things that you can do and that we can do better in accessibility as we push forward and think about our going forward in our future. But we hope that you learn a little today and have some questions for us, and we're really excited to get started.
So looking at accessibility by the numbers, New York City Transit, NYCT, we have 141 accessible stations as of this month, out of 493 total stations on the New York City subway and Staten Island Railroad. Our full bus fleet of approximately 5,900 local, express, and select bus service buses are all accessible via ramp or lift. Long Island Railroad has approximately 111 out of 124 accessible stations, and Metro North Railroad, about 84 of 124 stations are considered accessible. To sort of jump into the current and the future already, we wanted to acknowledge that this year was a commemorative year in which we were able to pass an agreement, reach a settlement agreement in which the MTA agrees to reach 95% accessibility of our remaining inaccessible stations by the year 2055. And that has us making 10 stations accessible every year between now and 2055. So it's a huge undertaking that requires significant funding from our federal and state legislatures and city. And we're really excited to have reached this commitment. It really shows the MTA's newfound commitment to reaching a fully accessible system, or as accessible as possible. So with that, I'm actually going to jump into the accessibility, the history of our accessible buses. So in the 1970s and 80s, we first started seeing some of our first accessible buses. So in September of 1975, was the first year that half fare was implemented for customers with disabilities. And in the summer of 1981, our first buses with platform wheelchair lifts were brought online. So the images on the screen show an old RTS bus model, and in the top right, and then below that, you can see a close-up of the bus lift that was positioned near the rear of the bus. In 97, we brought into service our first articulated buses, which many of us call the accordion buses. And those have had a wheelchair platform that helped raise a person with a mobility device onto the bus. So in the images on the screen show an early articulated bus near the Staten Island Ferry Terminal, or the Governor's Island Ferry Terminal. And in the bottom left, you can see a customer using one of those platforms to board the bus. Later on in 1998, in February 1998, our first MCI over-the-road coach bus came to Staten Island. In the top picture on the top right, you can see a customer boarding one of those buses via lift, which is positioned near the middle of the bus. In September 1998, our first Orion hybrid electric bus models were introduced with wheelchair ramps, and that you can see in the bottom right of the screen. As recently as May of 2019, The last high floor bus was retired out of our fleet. So the last bus that you had to take steps or use a lift for local buses was taken out of service. And now all of our local and SBS buses are accessible by ramp. Passing it back to Charlie to talk about bus accessibility today.
Thanks, Mira. And I think that, as we look at some of the features that we're going to be showing on our current buses today, it's, we are thinking about the current capital investments that we have across the MTA. We are committing funding and we are committing resources and people and thinking power to these new concepts that, to make this accessibility for all vision a reality. And so starting with some of the things that we have in our current bus system and our current bus fleet, the image to the left shows an open door on one of our hybrid buses. This is a wider door. This allows for easier exit flow through the bus, making boarding time a much quicker process, which allows for buses to stay on schedule and creating more room on the bus for customers to all use. But on the image on the right shows one of our new, one of our front door ramps that are allowed. That are accessible now. We are really excited about that. All of our buses now have front door boarding on the local and select bus service. On the express buses, as Mira showed earlier, they were still in the middle of the bus, but we have high color contrast, this yellow, bright yellow on top of the black background that allows for better visualization of that space, but easy ramp access that it can be deployed at a quick rate to allow customers with mobility devices or customers who need ramp access to get that. And so moving to the interior of the bus, they're thinking about the concept of Braille and decals. So the image on the top left shows a Braille bus number. All buses have these placards available onto them so that you can know which bus identification that you are on today. And then we have some images of the priority and courtesy seating decals. So on the bottom, we have an image that shows 3 different decals. And on the right, we have 3 images that show some of the language and icons that are used. On the top, we have wheelchair priority seating, you must give up these seats for a customer who's using a wheelchair board. A middle decal discussing, won't you please give the seat up to the elderly or disabled? And our bottom decal of priority seating, if requested, that you must give up the seats to the disabled. And with these decals, we are constantly working with partners in our signage departments and with our Department of Buses and working with advocacy community and members of the community to figure out what the best way to describe these messages are so that we are making sure we're giving as best information to our customers as possible. And so these are some of the decals that we have on now. But focusing more on priority seating, every MTA bus has 2 priority seating areas towards the front of the bus. The image on the right shows a customer who is using the priority seating and has the decals available, and it shows them in the space and boarded on the space safely. Every bus operator here at the MTA is properly trained on how to use the securement system, as well as who goes through accessibility training. And the image on the left is zoomed in, and you can see it's a picture of a yellow and blue ISA logo, an icon, that a customer can use who needs to request their stop on the bus. And something that is a little fun fact for everybody is that when a customer pushes this button on the bus, it actually gives a special chime to the bus operator, letting them know that a customer in priority seating, their stop is next, so that they need to go, if they need assistance and to unboard and to unsecure themselves, that they will be able to know when to do so. And so, these are just some, again, thinking about this idea that compliance is the floor. We are looking to expand access on the bus. And so here we have 2 images, the image on the left and right showing our different flip seat configurations on the bus. And so we are excited that currently 800 and soon to be more parts of our bus fleet have these new flexible seating options available And, thinking about like, oh, why would I need a flexible seat? Well, for customers maybe with a walker or with luggage or other objects that maybe they're bringing onto the bus, that this just allows a little more flexibility in terms of the space that is available, but again, without sacrificing any of the priority seating. And so we have an awesome team at the Department of Buses who is constantly working on what are some of the new ways we can introduce flexible seating and these new configurations to allow for the maximum utility of the bus. And so we're really excited always to partner with them. And when they bring new ideas to us, we're like, oh, that's a good idea. We should do that. And so we really do have those teams available and people who are really critically thinking about accessibility, that it's really exciting to see that we're doing. And once, when you're waiting for your bus or whether you're on board bus, information about your journey and information about when your bus is coming is critical. And so the image on the left is a photo of a digital information system, which has a visual information about where what bus you're on, where the next bus stop is, other buses that may be available for transfer. But these systems are also connected to our audio systems that have both automated and manual announcements that go throughout the bus. And so these systems are all connected so the most relevant information is given to your customers. And we're really excited about the continuing access and expansion of these systems that are being put on board. And you will see that here there are two, one towards the front of the bus and one towards the back of the bus. And the image on the right shows one of the iconic New York City bus stop signs. You've seen them all over. I know I have for many years, but we are really working with our partners in the New York City Department of Transportation and other agencies on how we can introduce the best and newest technology. And so in this image to the right, you have a picture of a bus with the ISA logo. And then it also shows the information on when the bus is coming. And lo and behold, 0 minutes, the bus is right there. And the bus information is still showing which bus route is coming towards that stop, where the final destination is, and where you are at 5th Avenue and 9th Street. And so working on adding in as many of these bus signs to your bus stop with these new digital information screens is critical as well. So adding in information in all parts of your journey is critical to the mission of accessibility for all. And now we're moving into some of the newer things that we're going to be looking at in our buses and things that we're currently working on. And the first one is the Open Stroller Pilot Program. This is a really incredible example of when advocacy and different groups within advocacy communities, the MTA and other thought leadership come together and form this really interesting and helpful new system on board our buses. So last February, we had a group of parental and caregiver advocates who came to us and said, we want to have a space on the bus that's available to our strollers without folding them. And it's a great idea. And then within 6 months, we worked together with a group of advocates, both parental and caregiver advocates and our disability advocates, to make sure that we are creating a pilot and creating a space on board that makes sure we do not take any priority seating available, but creates this new flexible seating option so that parents and caregivers do not need to fold their stroller. And so the image on top shows the decal that is in our designated open stroller space. And then the two images on the bottom show a parent with their child who is using the current seat option. We started off this pilot program with 7 bus routes across the 5 boroughs. And last April, we were really excited after tons of positive feedback that we expanded the pilot to 57 routes across the 5 boroughs, and it's over 1,000 buses. And just last week, we announced the official completion of the retrofitting of buses, the solar buses, excuse me. And it was well ahead of schedule. We continue to see positive feedback. We really continue to see really interesting ideas that we can continue to look forward in our pilot program. And so we have one last bus pilot that we want to discuss. And that is the wheelchair securement pilot. This is called our quantum self-securement system station, excuse me. This will be on board 10 M7 buses in Manhattan. This self-securement system allows for a customer who's in a mobility device to board the bus by themselves and secure themselves to the bus and secure themselves to this machine much quicker than a bus operator can. And in fact, I think it's like 4 times as fast, but allowing for this idea of independence and mobility and making sure that, maintaining that we're continuing that faster boarding process And this is just another example of the ways that we're using physical infrastructure and technology to improve the bus experience. And so we have a lot of really exciting things happening on board, and we're really excited for you to go check them out. And I'm going to throw this back over to Mira to talk about the iconic New York City subway system and accessibility.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. So thanks so much, Charlie, for sharing all that exciting stuff about buses. And similarly with subways, I'm going to jump into some interesting history. I always love to take this opportunity to kind of nerd out. Considering our system is over 120 years old, there's so much interesting stuff that happened. So I pulled together some fun history on the accessibility of our subway system. Then again, we'll talk about sort of accessibility in the subway today, and similarly to with buses, various initiatives that we're working on to improve and enhance the accessibility of our subway system over the years, in addition to, of course, our recently reached settlement to reach 95% accessibility by 2055. So to jump in, so much of the subway system was built prior to any federal laws regarding accessibility. As we said, 28 stations were opened by 1904, and the 400 stations after that continued in the years following. So from stairs to platforms to train cars, there have been many changes aboard around the subway in the past many decades. And so on the right here, we'll jump right in and take a look at an older subway car model. This is the BU car on display in the Transit Museum, one of the many older subway cars that are on display in the Transit Museum right now that you should absolutely go check out if you haven't. This subway car is just an interesting one. Historically, it's one of our earliest cars, I believe, and it has sort of interesting features like a wooden body, as well as padded seating that you may notice here, leather hanging straps to hang onto, which is where the term strap hanger came from, fun fact. And I think you had to manually open these doors yourself in order to exit this train car. Initially, these trains were used only for outdoor stations, elevated and street level stations, but as the subway expanded to become underground, these trains, I believe, did pursue underground trips as well. So go check out this train and many others at the Transit Museum, and you can even sit on those seats, I think, yourself. Moving a little bit more to station accessibility. So in September of 1984, federal government, New York State, New York City, and advocates for New Yorkers with disabilities came to an agreement, and the MTA started work to make 54 key stations accessible. By 1988, though, there were only 4 wheelchair accessible subway stations in the system, and those were Canarsie Rockaway Parkway on the L, Middle Village Metropolitan Avenue on the M, Rockaway Park Beach 116th Street on the A, and the World Trade Center station, which was the original station and has been replaced since in the last decade. I have an image here on the right of an interior of a platform at Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center station from 1975. It's sort of a fun example of looking back on all those decades past that folks have used the exact same platforms that we use today. This platform was not accessible at the time, so you can see that wide staircase there, an older train car open on the right. It was the 70s, so that train car sure was covered with graffiti. This station later on got an elevator. I think if I'm correct about which platform this is, the elevator is located right where that sort of clock is behind the staircase. So all sort of fun and interesting things. And I think, you know, the concrete platform, I think, is still exactly the same. So a history, continuing the history into the 1990s. So we haven't mentioned this till now in today's presentation, but the ADA, of course, was passed 33 years ago yesterday on July 26th, 1990. And it requires all transit agencies, it required at the time, all transit agencies to submit a key station plan to the FTA by July 26, 1992. So it gave systems 2 years to get together and submit a plan for accessibility. Our original key station plan, which included 54 stations, those were to be completed by 2010. In 1991, 20 stations were had become accessible with elevators or ramps. By 1994, the MTA board did approve a plan to complete 100 key stations by 2020, which was accomplished. And in 2000, the FTA approved 95 of those stations selected, and the final 5 stations were selected in the years following. So now jumping ahead kind of to now, or the last few years. So I have 2 images here of sort of more unique examples of new accessibility features or new vertical access features. So we have on the left a street to platform ramp located at the Avenue H station on the Q line in Brooklyn. This ramp is a few different laps around and doesn't require any maintenance. So we've received feedback from customers that ramps are really preferable for a number of reasons, particularly that you don't have to worry about them going out of service. And we've been really looking to identify where we can install ramps at stations as opposed to elevators. Of course, you need a lot of space, which I believe this picture really exemplifies. But when it's possible, it's certainly a preference for us as well. On the right, we've shown a new elevator at 34th Street Penn Station near the 123 side of the station. This elevator is a recent addition due to the Penn Access project, and it is actually quite large. It's almost double the size of a regular, of the ADA required cab size of an elevator. To go back to sort of what Charlie was saying at the beginning of this webinar, we're really looking to go above and beyond the bare minimum, even as we try to reach compliance with more and more stations. And the bigger the elevator, the more customers benefit. So you can see in this image on the right, the elevator has at least 10 people in it, and there's still room for the gentleman standing outside to board with a stroller. So that's a really exciting opportunity for us here to really look for where there is space to install larger elevators so that we can really reap the benefits and you don't have to only have 2 or 3 people in an elevator at a time. Looking at more accessible features within stations that you might not know about or you may not realize are specifically accessible features. So for folks with mobility devices or service animals in the past, they were the only ones able to enter the subway through what's called the auto gate, which is pictured on the left side of the screen. So auto gate is the way to accessibly access the subway station when you can't use turnstiles. In 2021, we were able to change that policy to allow anyone to pay the fare and use the auto gate to enter accessible subway stations, whether you have a bicycle, luggage, a cart, a stroller, of course. And this really is another way that we're looking to really expand accessibility in a universal way and looking at accessibility for all. So on the right side of the slide, we have signage on the top right showing our accessible boarding area overhead signage and also an example of elevator wayfinding signage in our system. So the accessible boarding area is located usually in the middle of the platform near where the conductor's cab stands. And it is where the platform has been altered and accessible stations to mitigate the gap between the train and the platform so that folks with mobility devices can more safely board the train. But actually we found that this is a desirable place to board for people on a spectrum of disabilities, as well as families with strollers, etc. So we've been really working to increase education around the accessible boarding area to make sure that it's useful for everyone who needs it. The bottom 2 photos on the right show brand new bright yellow tactile edges on a platform. This, I believe, was completed in the last year. On the right, we have an example of an alternate accessible travel information sign. So these signs are meant to be posted at every single elevator in our system. So if you do find yourself standing in an elevator that is unfortunately out of service, we are working to make sure that you have the information you need to get where you're trying to go. If you find that the elevator that you need to get where you're trying to go is no longer accessible to you. So this particular example includes a sort of a geographic diagram of where you are at J Street Metro Tech in this example, where you can find the bus to take to the next accessible station to then continue your journey or exit the station. Looking inside train cars, priority seating areas for people with disabilities in particular. So every train car has at least one side of the train car that says, similar to like our buses, our priority seating for folks with disabilities. But the sections of the two train cars to each side of the conductor's car also have particular areas for individuals with mobility devices. So these are two of our newer train cars, referred to as the new tech fleet, the new technology car fleet. So these are two examples of these parts of the trains, where on the left we have a train car with no seats at all on the inside of that train car, or on the, I guess, the end of the train car, and providing open space for folks with mobility devices to be able to safely sit during their travel, versus the image on the right, which shows flip seats. So if folks do want to sit, need to sit, or if there is someone with a mobility device or a stroller even, they would be able to comfortably station themselves during their travel and not be in the middle of the aisle. Oh, another thing about these two images, in these areas, there's always an accessible intercom. So if individuals need assistance or need to contact the train crew for any reason, the accessible intercom is located in this area as well. Looking at some of our audio-visual features in our newer train cars, again, the new technology fleet. On the left here, we can see our overhead customer information screen. On the sort of left angled, you can see a FIND screen. It stands for Flexible Information Device Screen Display. And these are coordinated with automated audio announcements and convey all of the information that our older cars only conveyed in manual audio announcements, now in visual and automated audio announcements as well. On the right, you can see, if you ignore for the moment the gentleman in an MTA vest, you can see a door indicator light, which for folks who can't hear the door chime when the doors are opening or closing, this indicator light would turn red when the doors are moving, although this gentleman might be wanting to prevent the doors from closing there. Hopefully you've heard about our newest subway car model, the R211. So these, we have a few of these in the system right now. Hopefully you've been able to see one with your own eyes and ride on one as well. So these cars have a lot of different improvements, including wider doors to increase and improve customer flow in and out of the train cars, and improvements to priority seating as well. So the wheelchair priority seating was moved to the inside of the train car as opposed to the end of the train car, with 3 individual flip up seats. So if an individual wants to sit next to their folded up walker, similar to on our buses, as Charlie was describing earlier, or if there's space for more than one person to utilize the area, this offers that additional space. As I said, these seats are also bright yellow to really help clarify and point out this is priority seating. So if you don't need the seating, you're so obviously sitting in this area, which is also marked by a bright yellow international symbol for accessibility, the wheelchair symbol on the floor there, which does even more to denote that this is priority seating for individuals with disabilities. Additionally, our door indicator lights on the R211s span the entire length of the door vertically, and are actually right next to the door, on the doors themselves, as opposed to a foot to the side. and flash red when the doors are closing and green when the doors are opening, to really help identify for folks who aren't going to hear the door chimes. Above the doors are the newer versions of our flexible information screens here. And you can see that it's going to be a little bit higher contrast LED screens than the ones that we have on our new technology cards. Additionally, similar to our new technology cars, the emergency passenger intercom is located right at those accessible priority seats, and have been simplified to be one quick button, a little bit lower down, and it says emergency on it. So back out in the station, in the last year and a half, we've been making some changes to our customer service in our stations. So we've been rolling out customer service centers. So expanding some of our station booths in the system to be more robust, to be able to do a little bit more for the customers. And as well as simultaneously bringing our station agents outside of the booth so that they can really assist our customers in person, whether that means help with purchasing a MetroCard from a MetroCard vending machine, assistance accessing the auto gate, guidance, and other wayfinding solutions. So we're really excited to have our customer service agents out of the booth and really able to do more to assist our customers. And in this picture here, you can see one of our new customer service centers. I believe this is located at 34th Street Penn Station. And it's sort of a black booth with brightly colored sort of omni lines all over it in our train colors. Another exciting new feature that really is of the future, but we're excited to be able to show it off now and get testing on it, are wide aisle gates. So I talked earlier about the auto gate, which is a door that is exactly like our emergency exit doors. They open very slowly and they close very slowly, and they're not the ideal way for to create universal access to our subway stations. You may have seen in other systems, including PATH, these wider gates that allow customers with mobility devices or folks with strollers, folks with luggage to more easily pay their fare and access the system. And so we are testing these out right now at Atlantic Avenue, Barclays Center, and at Sefton Boulevard, Archer Avenue, JFK Airport. So on the left is the one installed at in Brooklyn, and on the right is at JFK Airport. And you can go check them out right now. Similarly, looking at new innovations and ways we can go above and beyond to really improve the experience traveling in our system for everyone. In 2019, we launched the Accessible Station Lab at J Street Metro Tech, where we tested about 15 interesting new accessibility features, each of which solved sort of a different problem. And we have a few on display here on this slide. So on the left, we've shown floor decals in the accessible boarding area. So as I was pointing out earlier, we have overhead signage marking our accessible boarding areas, but we want to make sure that, first of all, folks know that the accessible boarding area is there. If you don't need to board there, maybe folks understanding where they're standing and maybe that they could go board somewhere else if they don't need to stand there. And then, of course, being able to see where it is from down the platform. Oftentimes our elevators, unfortunately, are not located right next to the accessible boarding area, and you do want to be able to kind of look down the platform to see how far you've got to go to find the accessible boarding area. So we've been looking at different materials, and these decals are located right now at a few different stations, including West 4th Street, 66th Street, and you can check them out there, and you can look for them to continue rolling out on Manhattan's West Side in the coming months. We also tested out at the time tactile guideways to help folks who are blind to more easily navigate subway stations, and other floor wayfinding tools. In the middle picture, we have a Braille tactile line map. And this one here shows the one line. And this is a way to bring access to map access to our customers who are blind and read Braille into the station. At this point, customers who are blind rely on their phones to have travel information and to receive their next stop. And so we really wanted to bring this access to the stations. These are installed at 23rd Street on the 1 train and at 66th Street on the 1 train. Definitely go check those out as well and let us know what you think. On the right, we have a screenshot from an accessibility app called Magnus Cards. This app takes information and breaks it down into simple steps for folks who have any kind of cognitive disability. So on the screen here, we have a screenshot of the card deck that will show you how to stay safe and comfortable when riding the New York City subway or train. And it'll walk you through the process and the experiences that you might have. We similarly made ones for how to understand and read the subway map, how to buy and use a Metro card, and how to navigate a subway station, etc. So a really cool app that we're also hoping to continue doing work with. So that's the end of this subway section for the moment. And I really hope that that this sort of helps to open your eyes maybe to features that we have already that you maybe weren't aware of, and to let you know about the exciting things that we're working on now so that you can check them out and give us your feedback. We have one more section talking about technology, and Charlie will walk us through that.
Thanks, Mira. I learned, there's so much history and there's so much currently happening within our physical system. But, with thinking about the rise of technology and the ability to get information in the palm of your hand or at your home, the advancements that have been made in the last 20, 30 years are just, the ways that we can communicate and the ways that we relay information and customers can relay information to us is rapidly advancing. And the ability to have access to this information and access to this technology is really critical in the mission that we are doing for accessibility for all. And so we're going to just talk about a couple of the features that we are currently using and will be continuing to use, and just continuing that mission of giving you as much information as possible. And so we've talked a little bit about Omni, a couple times here and there, but Omni is our new digital fare payment system that is on all New York City subways and buses, and will be advancing onto with our partners at Port Authority and the Department of Transportation, things like the tramway and the air train in the coming months. And we just yesterday celebrated 1 billion taps of Omni, a lot of taps. And we are also really excited that Reduced Fare Omni is out and rolling in service. We've had 30,000 of our reduced fare customers have already signed up using Omni and using digital tools to allow information to help them guide through the process of switching over from the Metro card to Omni. And so we have a ton of information about Omni available and how to use Reduced Fare Omni for those who would like to sign up for that. And so we're really excited about the future of Omni and this ability that we can have everything available to us on a phone or a watch, but also still you can have an Omni card. So if you are, not bringing your phone one day, or you want to use a card because you think it's a little easier, you still have the card option available as well. But Omni is, we have rolled it out throughout the New York City transit system and looking forward to expanding it through the rest of the MTA. And so now we're going to be talking about the My MTA app and a little preview onto something that you may not be aware of yet. So the My MTA app is a app that is available to all customers with a Android or Apple or any smartphone. This app gives you tons of information on trip planning and how some station alerts, elevator alerts, access to information otherwise that you'd have to be on a computer at home or maybe a printout. But again, having this in the palm of your hand and having this information available to you is really critical, and during your travel as well. But we're really excited to announce the MTA app will be going into its beta in the next week or two. It's not a new app, but it's this improved app is taking into account our really rigorous standards of accessibility and design, taking into account the information that customers have really wanted that are available on this app. And it's been a collaborative effort across the MTA to deliver this digital product to you. This includes, a new My Access-a-Ride revamped My Accessible Ride page that is easier for customers to use, as well as information on maps and information on, again, but going back to, elevator alerts, should an elevator be out of service, and how to consider a new accessible plan of trip. All of these designs and all of this information has been designed in a way that is easy to access. And so we're really excited about the new beta to be coming live soon. Thank you to all of our information technology team partners who have made, looked into the ways that we can improve accessibility on that app to go as well. And so I believe our next slide is on real-time information. Is a really critical feature. And so on the top left of the slide here, we are the MTA real-time service alerts that's just also launched this month. It gives you travel updates on your travel schedule, whether it's talking about your bus service, your train service, your commuter rail service. The soon to be available, information on escalator and elevator and other forms of, information that are available. But we are giving the customers the ability to have this information delivered directly to a text message or an SMS service, and soon to be other applications available. Just this information factor is really critical. But let's say you have a really specific question like, how do I get to Prospect Park? Well, you can use the MTA WhatsApp feature to text directly with a message, with a one-on-one DCU supervisor. And we will, you will get information at the palm of your hand about how to get around. And then on the right, we have an image, a screenshot of our live subway map, which is in its beta, and it allows a visual diagram to show where your subway is throughout the New York City subway system. And you can select the line, select the weekend service, select night service. And so really thinking about the ways that we deliver information to our customers, and whether you're on the train, whether it's on the bus, whether it's planning a trip ahead, that ability to access information and access it freely, access it whenever you are, wherever you are, is really critical in our mission. And thinking about just, going back to the vision of accessibility for all, for customers who are, with a disability or may not use that English as their first language, we're really excited about testing the NaviLens wayfinding application that is part of the Accessibility Station Lab. It's an expansion across the Upper West Side through funding through a state senator, as well as on the M66 bus on the west side. NaviLens is this really amazing application that allows customers to scan a colorful QR-like code to get information about when their bus or subway may be coming, and other information that may be needed to download, or to visualize or to hear. And you can translate it into multiple languages. And this, again, thinking about this idea of there are so many customers with so many going different places and different languages and different needs, and having the ability to translate on the spot information is another way that we are utilizing technology for all of our customers to understand the system a little better. It's a complex system, it's a big city, and having this information available to you is really critical in our mission. And so with that, there was a ton of information there, and we just want to thank you and for listening for all. And you may have tons of questions, and we hope you do, and we're here for you. So in the next week, we'll be publishing our 2023 Disability Pride Month recap in our newsletter. We will send all of this information out to you so that you can sign up for the newsletter and learn more about some of the things we talked about today, including watching recordings of our previous events this month. We had a ton of content on digital design and thought leadership, looking at employees who went above and beyond in their service at the MTA, thinking about accessibility. And so we hope that you tune into that information, stay connected with us on social media. So we, again, thinking about that real-time information feed. This month, we had 3 stations that opened up to be fully accessible, and we have some more coming later this year. So the 3 that just opened up this month are Dyckman Street on the 1 in Manhattan, Court Square, the G7, and then 8th Avenue at the N in Brooklyn. And so we are going to be announcing a couple more stations, and again, going back to Mira's point about, done this mission of investing, new elevators and new accessible features every year for the next 30 years as this commitment. But again, we're here thinking about new technologies, working with our advocates and working with our customers on thinking about new ways we can incorporate accessible features. And it's just, we have an agency that is really committed, and its cornerstone value, as we have said, that accessibility is in all that we do, and it's in all that we thinking, again, from our content to our service to our people. Accessibility is on the forefront. It is here, and we are continuing to deliver on that mission. And yes, we will be sending a lot of information your way tomorrow, so do not worry. And with that, we're going to give it back to Hillary to talk about some of the things happening in the Transit Museum. And then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions and answers.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for giving us a little space to talk about how the Transit Museum is also really dedicated to providing accessible programming for our community. And so we just wanted to highlight a couple of our offerings. Subway Sleuths is an after-school program for 2nd through 5th grade students who are on the autism spectrum. And it's a program that really supports social interaction between peers who connect as transit fans. Participants explore the museum's content and engage in transit-themed games and activities. And the groups are facilitated by museum educators and speech-language pathologists and special education teachers. Next, we have Transit Quest, the next slide. Great, which is a camp that was developed for teens who identify as neurodivergent. So this is a week-long summer program that immerses participants in museum content and provides exciting opportunities to engage with transit fans and guest speakers from the museum and the MTA at large. There's also behind-the-scenes experiences that include nostalgia rides on vintage trains and private tours of Old City Hall Station and other exclusive MTA sites. And next we have Special Day, which is a fun free outing for the whole family. We invite children with developmental disabilities or those on the autism spectrum and their families to join us for transit-themed activities, performances, and time to explore the museum before we open to the public. And then lastly, we have Ready to Ride, which is a family event program for riders with disabilities to learn about navigating the subway system. Participants practice how to travel by subway in the safe environment of the museum, and they become familiar with metro cards, turnstiles, maps, and conductor boards, and then they role play various real-world scenarios on board a subway car. So these are just some of the programs that we are running at the museum. But now is a really great time to kind of open it up for questions and see what you guys are wondering after all of this. So let's take a look at the chat. Please feel free to put your questions down. Seems like there's some comments that accessibility has really made it possible for people to get more transit access, which is fantastic. Also, an interesting question about, in case of the signs in Braille, how does a visually impaired person know where to put his hand to find the messages? How do they know that the signs exist?
So I can sort of answer that, and I turn to the NaviLens app here because that question certainly applies to this app as well. In terms of Braille, we try our very best to place the Braille in consistent locations. So the Braille signage is required by the ADA to be at all main entrances. So it's always located at every staircase, and it's located, I believe, on every other column, depending, of course, on the station. Our stations don't always have the same number of columns, the same types of columns, but we convey that information on our website of where it should be accessed, and it's obviously vital to make sure that those signs are located consistently. In terms of the tactile Braille maps, again, that would be about making sure that we install those at consistent locations. So, for example, on the stations at the one line, so at the 23rd Street station, or currently really at the 66th Street station right now, they're located on at the main entrance of the subway stations and on the southern staircase. So that's going to be right. It's going to be the same location for each direction, and that'll be sort of the way. And then using the NaviLens app to help folks to find the Braille signs and to various points of interest in the subway. So the NaviLens app is able to detect these colorful codes from significant distance and angles and even out of focus. The idea being that the user does not know where those codes are, and the app is so complex that that it can detect those codes even if the user doesn't know where they are. I'll just add, if folks can write their questions in the chat, just because we're short on time, so we'll be sure to answer those questions via chat.
Yeah, there was a couple questions earlier on, and I'm just wondering, maybe to kind of consolidate them. Is there a way for people to submit their comments or reviews or their experiences of these new features and options, and so that you can get kind of a sense of how people are using it or not using it?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Hillary. So all of these new features, of course, as we said, we're saying check them out and give us your feedback. How can you give us your feedback? For the moment, you can always send us your feedback through the MTA portal in our complaints and feedback portal. We'll send that link out to that, but you can, it's also very Googleable. Additionally, you can always reach out to our team at accessibility@mtahq.org. Again, we'll have that sent out as well. And we'll be seeking out feedback more directly, reaching out to various organizations to make sure that we're reaching the community and getting folks to really try these things out so that we know that whether these are features that the public really wants.
Fantastic. And there's another question kind of about when accessibility was coming to a specific station. Is there like an order or a list that people can see for kind of the next plans down the pipe?
Yes, we also do have that information online. You can see all of the stations that are upcoming in our upcoming capital programs. You can see all of the stations that are currently in progress to become accessible. I believe we have 30 stations that are currently in design or construction to become accessible. That's all on our website, and we'll be sure to send out specific links to these pages. So the Transit Museum will send a follow-up to this event, and you we'll include that in one of our links as well.
Wonderful. Yes, we'd definitely be happy to share out both the recording and the access to the links and information for further information. We had already sent out kind of slides for viewing this presentation, but we can also send those out again in case you didn't see them before. So I think that's probably a good stopping point because we're already at 7, so I'm sorry we didn't have too much time for questions and answers. But I wanted to thank you all. Thank you, Mira and Charlie, for coming, and the whole MTA Accessibility team for joining us and sharing with us all this amazing information about accessibility in the system. It's really wonderful to see all these changes and developments and what's happening now today. Thank you again, all of you, for coming and joining us, spending your evening with us. We'd love to have you here. We invite you to all join us at the museum. You can reserve your tickets on our website. Also, if you enjoyed this program, please consider making a donation or becoming a member to keep our programs going. And to that end, we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Con Ed, for supporting our virtual programs. I'm going to put some links into the chat so you can figure out how to get your tickets or join as a member. And also to let you know that we do have more upcoming virtual events happening. You can find those on our website. Our next virtual program is going to be August 10th at 6 p.m. This is Transit by Ferry in New York City. We will look at the history of ferries and their continued importance as part of our kind of broader transportation system. And then on the 24th of August, also at 6 p.m., we're going to be having a program about moving image artwork in transit, which is going to include a discussion of the mass transiscope, which is one of my personal favorite art installations in the system. So we hope you can join us at some of those events. All of these programs are free and you can register on our website. So we hope to see you there. But thank you again for spending your evening. Have a wonderful night and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to talk, and we'll send out all this information. Have a great evening, everybody, and happy Disability Pride Month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much. It's wonderful to have you all here.